Okay, scholar practitioner leaders, AI peers, and AI scientists. Welcome back to our week 5. This is our oral lecture 2 of 4. So I want to go ahead now and go over that one assignment that we had last week. Just want to make sure that everything that I spoke on in regard to the oral lecture from week 4, guys, did in fact come to fruition. And I just want to go over some of those key areas that I spoke on last week, especially when we was talking about the k-means clustering analysis that I spoke on last week, along with the correlation examples, everything that was articulated, guys. I just want to go into that in a little bit, in a little depth, as well as tied into our respective chapter 3 in our book. Because, like I said, you guys' assignment that you turned out is very, very well received. Uh, I'm looking at everything now. I'm still looking at you guys' assignments, and it's really, really nice to see that everybody is on board. Everybody understands what we're trying to do in regard to making sure that everything on the actual uh, worksheet that I presented to you guys, as far as the directions, is concisely being adhered to. So everyone is truly answering the questions and going into depth, providing nice statistical analysis from using the Python tool and all those other Excel spreadsheet requirements that I asked for in a concise manner. So again, great job, guys. Like I said, I'm still actually looking at some of that. But before I go into that in depthly, I want to just talk about chapter 3 first before we go into the actual assignment, and then we'll tie the chapter 3 in with the assignment. So you remember last week that I told you when you go into your chapter 3 readings, it's going to be all about the AI, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and deep learning models for risk management. Okay. So as soon as you go into the chapter, you saw how the author actually broke down some of the artificial intelligence and machine learning, some of the aspects of it, especially when it was going through the COVID-19 pandemic, right, in 2020. So it was kind of refreshing to see how AI was really an integral part of that, guys, along with the machine learning uh, during that time period. So you saw how the author was actually speaking on the predictive modeling and forecasting in regard to making sure machine learning as well as AI played a huge role with that, along with some of the challenger models. So I know you guys really enjoyed that, along with some of the data sets, some of the diverse data sets that was coming out of the pandemic, as well as improved handling. So that was really, for me, I know you guys, once you looked at that and read that, was probably really like impressed, because I know when I went through it and dissected, I knew that you guys would find it really encouraging just to understand some of the complexities that came out of the pandemic. So, and then it went into understanding what risk based optimization was all about. And then also from that section there, it talked about the automated steps in the modeling develop process. So that was all good material. Like I said, it was all predicated on that era that we had during the pandemic of COVID-19. So, like I said, I didn't want to go into that last week when I spoke on it briefly, because if I tell you everything, the last thing you guys will do is read. You're not going to read the chapters at all. So all I can do is give you the cliff notes, because I want you, my AI scientists, scholar practitioner leaders, to show me your scholarly side by going through, as always, reading the corresponding material for the week, take great notes, and because if you do that, you'll get a good appreciation for that week's material. And I know that you did, because your homework is always indicative of how you came out of that respective week. And like I said, it looks like to me from week 4, guys, you guys nailed it. From my sampling looks at of you guys' homework assignment, everyone really did tremendously well. And I like reading your output, guys, because it really, really makes me feel good. I get warm inside because I know you guys are actually getting it. And that's what it's all about. Really taking the bull by the horns and just going in and really tackling and doing a phenomenal job. So, but yeah, I just wanted to go over that one piece firstly, that artificial intelligence, machine learning, and deep learning modules for risk management in chapter 3, because that was really a lot of good material there, guys, especially that COVID-19 example. And then it went into the risk modeling using the therefore mentioned machine learning aspect. So all those things were good, guys. And it got to talking about one pharmaceutical company, GlaxoSmithKline. If you guys are not familiar with it, now you are. You saw that how they enable their customers to ask questions by voice or text online advertisements. So that was really huge, guys. And I know that you guys really appreciate that, which, they worked hand in hand with a university. So if you looked at that, and you read that in the book, you saw that they actually worked with the University of Southampton in the UK, in which they actually created cognitive computing tools that offers research modules for online information. So I thought that was really encouraging, guys. And I know that, if I felt that way, I know that you guys was going to like it. Okay. And then it went into talking about the banks also, various banks, as I mentioned last week in my overview of what you guys need to read and get a good understanding on. You remember I had talked about the banking, uh, commercial bank and things, how they was really, really using different types of automation and tools going into production, things of that nature. So all you had to do was read that, understood how they use the ML, machine learning factory, which actually reduced some of the model development and development time for more than 12 months. So I felt like, if you read that during that span, you saw how beneficial ML was for that respective banking industry, right? So thought that was really good, and how financial institutions, especially in Asia Pacific, really use some of the AI technology to streamline some of their employees' learning, right? Learning materials and things of that nature. So if you read that, I'm hoping, and like I said, based on you guys' homework assignment, it looks like it was value added. And I won't know for sure until I go through the assignments by this week, end of the week. But everyone looks really, really, really keen on really enjoying the reading material out of the book, in this case from chapter 3. Okay, and then also it talked about process automation, right, for claims processing, right? And basically, it was actually going over how AI and machine learning models have been developed to identify various types of issues when you're talking about claims processing, things of that nature. So that was good to read. I think many of us know that how AI processes various types of claims in various industries. Okay. So I thought that was really good, guys. And it went into overall complex risk calculations, things of that nature. So that week 4, chapter 3 was really good in regard to looking at the complex risk calculations, making sure that navigating through the storm of COVID-19, as well as really going into the banks, commercial banks in Latin America, was all really good stuff. And it all tied in to using risk modeling and our machine learning, right, aspects to really get a good overall how diverse risk modeling and machine learning can be used in various industries. And like I said, pharmaceuticals, all that good stuff. So really, chapter 3, guys, was really, like I said, it really brought together everything that we've been doing since week 1. And that's why I told you everything really builds on moving forward, builds on top of each other. And like I said, if you took great notes and really read this chapter And once you did all that and then start working on your homework, that I'm gonna go over in just a second, you would have been very successful. So that's what I'm hoping. So my fingers are in fact crossed, but it looks though that the actual material from the book was right where it needed to be. At least I'm presuming that it was for you guys. And like I said, doing my cursory check, it looks like everything was really good. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do now is look at some of our actual assignments. Okay. Just want to go over some of the material. Just want to make sure you guys were on it like I presented it to you. And by doing that, life would have been really, really good for you guys. So let me go through and just pull that up for you real quick. Okay, give me 1 second. All right, here we go. Yes, so in regard to the material, just here we go. Okay, so all right, just gotta get out of that link. There we go. Okay. All right. So the good thing that I also like, guys, looking at the material. All right. So I'm pulling it up now. Announcements. Okay. All right. Just want to make sure. Okay, yep, there we go. Sorry about that, guys. All right, so yes, so week 4, like I said, those PowerPoint presentations were huge, okay? And what I really liked the most was the one on clustering, as I mentioned earlier, guys, along with the K-means clustering. So those two went hand in hand that I spoke on last week, okay? So just remember that clustering, as I spoke on, that PowerPoint, if you went through each slide and just like I said, instead of writing all these material down PowerPoint, all you needed to do, as I spoke on last week, was actually just print out the slides. That way, like I told you, you can save it, and it tells you what the cluster was all about and things of that nature, how it's using data points, describe the various types of attributes, things of that nature. So it was really good material, and it really broke it down very granularly. And it talked about similarities, things of that nature, and defining the distance measures. So that was really, really a good PowerPoint. And the same thing, and like I told you, what I didn't want you guys to do was get clustering mixed up with the K-means clustering, right? So those was two separate entities. As long as you kept it all separated and really understood that, there shouldn't have been any ambiguity, right? And that's what I was really hoping. So when I'm looking at that, there we go, there we go, there we go. Yep. So we did really good there. Okay. And then also, let me go back to that. Okay, like I said, the K-means clustering was basically its own separate entity. And I know clustering and K-means, you guys are probably thinking, okay, it's similar. Well, it's somewhat similar, but why is clustering? Why do they offer different classifications, partitioning data sets into subsets? And that's the difference right there, as defined by distant measures. So once you guys read up on that, understood the hierarchical algorithms, and also what it means to understand the QT clustering algorithm, along with the common distance measures, you would have been really good to go, making sure that you understood those formulas, right? And that's, to me, is the overall difference when you're talking about the geometric centroid, right? To go along with the K-means clustering. So that was really crucial, that you can differentiate both of those actual clustering entities. You got standard clustering, and then you had the K-means clustering. Then you had the risk management approaches PowerPoint. that I mentioned last week as well, guys. Just going through that, making sure you understood the various types of approaches that was presented by Gulam Nabi. Okay, so Gulam Nabi gave some great understanding to make sure you can differentiate and really understand the total risk and the systematic risk and under the unsymmetric risk as well. So that right there, by making sure that you can differentiate